At the closing ceremony of the 16th edition of the Mumbai Film Festival, Serbian filmmaker and jury member Goran Paskaljevic said that he had been to festivals around the world.
I was on many festivals, Cannes, Berlin, many festivals, and some of them they are full of sparkling,
very
fancy, and some are beautifully organized. Some are like this, like that, but this festival has really a big heart.
Heart was the key ingredient of this year's festival, which almost shut down after the main corporate sponsor backed out. But within 6 weeks, filmmakers, film actors, studios, corporates and film lovers banded together and ensured that there was enough money to keep the festival going.
When I think of Mumbai,
I think of cinema.
A city full of crazy filmy people.
And you know what we film buffs
wait for every year.
MAMI, our very own film festival.
The best of world cinema.
For film buffs of
Every shape and size.
Watching together.
This year the festival had to put up a bit of a fight to come to us.
But we film buffs
Made it happen.
And we need to make it happen
Every year.
Because it's my festival.
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 It's my festival. It's
My
festival.
See you at our festival.
Somehow, MAMI survived and occasionally even soared.
I take such pride, and I believe this is such a privilege and an honor, and this makes it so personal for me to be standing here declaring the 16th MAMI Festival open.
Until September, I was just another viewer who went to the festival to watch world-class cinema. But slowly, MAMI took over my life. We chased money, films, talent, shooting equipment, even the mithai and samosas that were served at the opening and closing ceremony. We shamelessly begged for favors, and everyone we asked came through. From A-list Bollywood stars to volunteers who worked tirelessly to make this festival happen. Why was it important to keep MAMI alive? Because this festival brings great cinema to Mumbai. Where else would you catch Xavier Dolan's award-winning MAMI or Matthew Walker's Pride? Because this festival helps to nurture cutting-edge Indian cinema. Films like Katiyabaz and Fandri came out of MAMI. Because this festival is a breeding ground for the next generation of film talent in this city. Despite the hiccups, MAMI 2014 was a week-long cinematic feast with movies, masterclasses, panel discussions, and a staggering display of talent. There were 3 competitive sections at the festival: Dimensions Mumbai, India Gold 2014, and the international competition. 47 films out of the total 178 films at the festival screened in these sections. The first was Dimensions Mumbai. Short films by filmmakers under 25 years of age from Mumbai screened in this section. A total of 20 films were screened in Dimensions Mumbai this year. And the winners were the Silver Gateway of India for the second best film went to Unfit, directed by Shrishti Jain.
हेलो
ये पिछले 1.25 साल से फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में एम्प्लॉयड है एज अ स्ट्रगलर.
हाँ भैया आ जाएंगे.
The Silver Gateway of India for the best film went to Mumbai 70, directed by Disha Rindani.
नाबिद का दूसरा रूप है. लेजी जब मैं रहता हूँ तो मैं रैप करने लगता हूँ. 1993 में मेरी हुई परवरिश, 40 में राम बच्चन चाल नंबर 5 गोली नंबर 24 बम्बे 70 कट्टर 24 अब्बा मेरे अम्मी कट्टर सुन्नी फुप्पी.
The second was the India Gold 2014 category for Indian films which have not been screened in India. 13 films were screened in this section this year. And the winners were the Golden Gateway of India for Best Film went to Chauranga. The Silver Gateway of India for second best film went to Killa. And there was a jury special mention for the ensemble cast of Killa. Finally, in the international competition category, open to debut filmmakers from all over the world, 14 films were screened. And the winners were The Golden Gateway of India for Best Film went to court.
तुम्ही आत्महत्या या विषयावर कधी कुठलं गाणं लिहिलंय का?
हो.
पुढची डेट घ्या.
And I strongly oppose the request for bail.
25 जानेवारी.
The Silver Gateway of India for Best Director went to Chaitanya Tamhane for the film Court. The Silver Gateway of India for Best Actor went to Martin Lozilion for the film Fever.
Il vous faudra être surhumainement inhumain.
The Silver Gateway of India for the Best Actress went to Leeron Benchelush for the film At Lee Laila. The Silver Gateway of India for the Jury Award for Best Work Camera went to Anthony Tat Radcliffe for his cinematography in the film 71. The Silver Gateway of India Grand Jury Prize went to Gueros, directed by Alonso Ruiz Palacios. There was also a jury special mention for the ensemble of Court. Apart from films, there were also film conversations. A segment called Director's Choice had leading directors presenting their favorite films.
When I saw Anand that time, I think the film just blew me off. I was completely blown by the character of Rajesh Khanna, that here was a man who was dying and he could be so happy, he could make everybody else happy. I was blown by Amitabh Bachchan's performance. I was even blown by Ramesh Deo, Dara Singh, Johnny Walker, and that was my discovery to the world of Hrishikesh Mukherjee's films. So then I made a point that as I was growing up, I said I have to watch every Hrishikesh Mukherjee film, and whenever any film came, I ended up watching it. I got exposed to poetry, I think, to Gulzar Saab, the lovely poetry he wrote in that film, and there began my journey, I would say, with words, and I suddenly started reading poetry because of this film. I still remember that lovely poem. I think this is the first poem I ever kind of wrote down watching a film, and I kind of mugged it, and I said I have to recite it, and I kept on reciting. I hope I can remember it. It went like, ए मौत तू एक कविता है, तुझसे एक कविता का वादा है, बोल मिलेगी मुझको. डूबती नब्जों में जब दर्द को नींद आने लगे, जर्द सा चेहरा लिए चांद उफक तक पहुंचे. दिन अभी पानी में हो, रात किनारे के करीब. न अंधेरा, न उजाला, न रात न दिन. जिस्म जब खत्म हो और रूह को जब सांस आए, तुझसे एक कविता का वादा है, बोल मिलेगी मुझको.
When people ask me, tell me the films that have been the most important films in the last 10 years of Indian cinema, there's always two films that I talk about. One is Lagero Manavai and the other is Black Friday. Because I think these two, in a sense, represent two extremes, but also two of the best of what we can achieve and what we can do with movie making. No, so there's things that I can't. I mean, like I'm saying, every time I ask him stuff, about processes and stuff, he just tells me to shut up and do what I have to do. So finally, I'm going to ask you: is that how do you do it? How do you, in those moments, and at that point in time when all that stuff was happening around you, where, personal, work-wise, Panch is not releasing, all kinds of things are happening. You're out there, you're writing this script. You don't have a budget to make it, and you're fighting. And how do you do it?
I don't know. I had nothing to lose. In the sense, there's no other way to go. You're up against the wall, and you somehow have to just go out and do it. In the sense that I was at that point, anybody would have given me any amount of money, I would have made a film in it. And while doing it, I figure out what to do, what not to do. Because we have made films with no money. Actually, Gulal was made without money over a period of time. But I don't know. I actually don't answer your question because I genuinely don't know. It just happens. It's a very organic process. It just happens. I just know I like to, when there's nothing, I'll sit down and I'll write a script in 2 days. So I always try to reach that point where there's nothing left.
Bandit Queen to me was the first cinematic experience that showed India the way it is, the way it really is, the way it was in the 70s, the way it was in the 80s, the way it was in the 90s, and now. And that's why I want you to see it. I want you to see this film because India still is like this. We live in a microscopic bubble. We think this is our India, but there's a large part of India which is extremely violent. And as we speak right now, there's a lot of violence being committed. There's a lot of repression being committed against a woman or a man or a woman from a lower caste or a certain person from a certain religion. And he's being repressed not only by another community or another sex or another caste or another religion. There is also a systematic repression which has come ingrained in the way India is being governed. That's what I sincerely believe. And when you see this film, you will see that.
These presentations and ensuing discussions gave an insight into the making of classics such as Junoon and Parinda.
It's one of the movies that has inspired me, helped me, I think, to set parameters of where I want to ultimately reach in life as a filmmaker. I'm very, very proud to present this movie to each one of you.
Javed!
When I look at the film now and films of that period, particularly now Junoon, when I look at it, I just think, if one was to make a film like this today, what would it take? It would be a completely different kind of experience. But at that time, it was, for myself, it was like going back and reliving a part of history.
Right, sir.
Because when we were shooting, I certainly, I don't know whether Nasir used to feel like that, but I certainly used to feel that we are in 1857, 1858. Oh, yeah. Right. It seemed like that. We always felt like that. Even the calls, street calls used to seem like it was from that period. It was quite extraordinary. And there's a great Exodus scene towards the end.
Right.
And that Exodus scene, today, if you have to do something like this, it would be so difficult.
But what Shyam is saying about all of us living in that era, I completely am in agreement with. Because as it is, I live in my head a great deal of the time. And to be there in a place like Malihabad or Kakori and to be dressed like that, and I would make it a point to dress up in my costume every day and stay in costume, whether I was shooting or not. And so it was very easy for me to transport myself to that era. And in any case, everybody in Kakori and Malihabad was talking about 1857 as if it happened yesterday.
Correct.
And they've been talking about it, they've probably been talking about the shooting since. And they'll talk about it for the next 100 years.
परिंदा रिलीज इन पंजाब. पिक्चर जगू खत्म नहीं हुई, 3 से 6 का शो था. 4-5 बजे मुझे फ़ोन आता है, गुरदीप था उसका नाम डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का, कहना सर मर गए, बर्बाद हो गए, पिक्चर तेरे उड़ गई, खत्म। मैंने उसको बोला क्यों ओपनिंग ले ली? कहना जी हाउसफुल है। मैं क्या फिर क्यों है? कहना सर मर गए, खत्म हो गया, फिनिश है। तो सीधा सो की कर। मैं क्या हुआ? कहना अनिल और माधुरी ने मार दिता नाना ने, वो मर गए। सारा हॉल कह रहा ड्रीम सीक्वेंस है। कहता है सर मैनू पता है ड्रीम सीक्वेंस नहीं है, ऐसा मार गए।
MAMI also featured several masterclasses. I had an engaging conversation about the actor's craft with iconic French actress Catherine Deneuve and Deepika Padukone. Three of India's leading comics, Rohan Joshi, Tanmay Bhatt and Arnab Kumar, discussed how social media is altering the Bollywood narrative.
Has celebrity and the definition of celebrity completely changed?
I think,
yeah.
Yeah,
of course. It was some of the nasty comments which were written on their video. I remember that me and Golu were discussing, and they were like fans. I don't know. I mean, Indian viewers are very emotional here, and they were like giving galis ki ye PR ke liye ho raha hai, ye ho raha hai. So I remember that she had done a video, the first sketch that they did on Ghana, something like Ish Wala Love only.
Yeah.
And that time she was not a big celeb, so nobody has any negative comment on that. And suddenly she is this big star. It is when the person in the frames are big, I mean, it's easy for people to sort of start slinging.
Yeah.
No,
Also, I think part of that blame also lies on our current celebrity and media culture. Our current celebrity and media culture is very niche-based. The second you have a movie out, you are on every dance show, you are on every Jhalak Dikhla Ja, you are giving half-hour interviews to every single show. Like, I'm sure you've experienced it with the front row. I'm sure it was much easier to schedule an interview when a star had a movie coming out the next week. So suddenly, so all your access to celebrity is very need-based. So even as an audience member, you're trained to believe that, okay, if I'm seeing this person on TV,
there कुछ तो है यहाँ पे, इसलिए आ रहा है.
इसका कुछ PR, इसका कुछ plug, इसका कुछ तो है. So it was, there's something to sell. So it was really shocking for people.
Nobody believed that. Why would Alia do this?
What's Alia's endgame here? There's no movie coming out. Yeah, what is her agenda? There's no movie coming out. She doesn't have another release coming up this year. She doesn't have she's already had her 2 hits, her critical success with Highway and 2 States doing well at the box office. So what is her end? People couldn't fathom that on some level.
Which is what baffled us also, because when people said you're doing a PR activity for her, and we were like, what do you fix?
Did someone from media ask you this question?
Yeah. We've been asked several times. And it's like, how do you fix the image of somebody who has had a critical hit like Highway and a box office success like 2 States like a month ago? How am I supposed to do more for her image? That's not really, like, you think I can do PR for this person? Like,
and the denial was to such an extent where I've spoken to journalists who thought the documentary or the mockumentary was real.
Yeah.
Saying, is she really smart now? Is that what you're trying to portray? And
actual question,
these are
not
qualified people
like,
giving information to the public.
Actual comment on YouTube, fuck all documentary is fake. Like, thanks genius, we knew that. Like,
so the idea to do that was to not turn into a comedy nights with couple. You should. The idea is to really make celebrities more accessible and more human.
Film companion creative head Smriti Kiran had a conversation with Zoya Akhtar, Arjun Kapoor and several others about how the box office impacts on creativity.
You said in an interview that, the audience didn't understand your first film. Did it have any kind of impact on the writing of your second film, which was hugely successful? Do you think that what happens to a movie at the box office, somewhere, even subconsciously, even if you're not thinking about it, consciously affects the way you create the second thing that you're doing?
Yes, it does. I more than understand it, I don't think people watched it. I don't think people went in and watched it. Like, I think a lot of people saw it on television and a lot of people saw it pirated for some reason. But you definitely do think about what you're going to do next. But because it's your first film and because films give you different things, I mean, if you have a film that is appreciated and makes a lot of money, you struck gold. If you have a film that just makes a lot of money, you're safe. If you have a film that doesn't make any money but people loved it, and it gave you appreciation and awards and actors want to work with you, you're safe. If you make a bad film that makes no money, you go home. You're done. It's as simple as that. So somewhere, I think because it was my first film, I mean, everyone that liked it, you saw it, that really liked it. I got best debut, best this. Actors called me and said wanted to work with. You know what I mean? There was a lot of, and the media was really good to the film. The press was really good to the film, and they were really like, they kept writing about it. They liked it, so they wrote about it. So I got a lot out of the film, and I think because it was my first film, it didn't affect me as much. I think now if a film doesn't make any money at the box office, it would affect me much more, honestly. But as in terms of my second film, it's very funny, but it started off as being a small film with 3 boys in a car.
Shot in Spain.
Yeah. I thought it would just be a really indie movie, but it didn't.
It turned out to be a Hindi movie eventually.
How did it
Which
evolve
had song,
into this big
dance and a
film?
bit of lip sync also by the
Yeah,
end.
because I started to do the sports thing, and then you're like, okay, so now I'm going to move to Spain. Okay, so now I need money. Okay, so now I therefore need actors. Okay, then I need songs. And yes, things change. And I mean, I can say whatever, and I want to make the films I want to make, but before my movies are coming out, I'm a full-on capitalist. I wanted to make money, hardcore. It happens,
What is the role of credible numbers in the process of filmmaking?
There are so many stakeholders on each film. There's a filmmaker, there's an actor, there's a studio, there's a producer, and everyone's, fates are sort of tied together on this one movie. And of course, it becomes really important then to know, what the film has performed.
What is right now, which I really don't know and I should know, is the system of auditing the box office right now, and how is rent track different?
So I guess what happens now is that you have your team all over the country, and they'll sort of get your numbers from each theatre, from
Who's
each
your
circuit.
team? Your personal
A
team?
company will have,
A company.
a given company. So a studio will have a team.
Okay.
A producer will probably have a solo producer will probably have his, contacts, his sub-distributors. So there may be some pilferage when it's not your own system. When it's your own system, then it's fairly transparent. But how this really helps is that online in the night, the minute that the film sort of releases, all your admissions get fed into the system. So it's pretty cool. And Arturo, please.
Arturo, why don't you?
Yeah. So basically, we collect information from every single exhibitor out there. We're in 44 markets right now, including the most important ones, except for India, for now. And we track information in real time, so that distributors, exhibitors, producers, they know real time on their phones how their movies are performing. But not just their movies, their competitors, which is even more important.
Yeah.
Because you'll release a movie every year or so, or every 2 years, but you want to learn from what the industry is doing to copy what they're doing well and to avoid what they're doing wrong. And if we see evolution as a trial and error process, the ability to have more information makes you much more efficient.
I know it's not for everybody. I'm a producer's son, so I know certain aspects. Is our distributor shares are very different than across the world, because our single screens actually are fixed on hire.
Yep.
We don't have to give them 50% for single screens. So that's why when a film like Rowdy does well, the producer makes more money. Because they actually get 80% of the first week share.
And the tax is different in every
state. The tax
state.
is different. So there's so many things. So जब हम बोलते हैं ना पिक्चर ने 150 करोड़ किया है, उसमें actually producer के हाथ में half आता है.
Yeah, because we don't talk about return on
investment. We don't
investment.
talk about return on the investment.
And that actually I wish people spoke about. Because
Which is what actually quantifies the film as a success or a failure. If you're making a film for 150 crores and it does 150 gross, that's not an achievement. That's the bare minimum. That is your starting point. It's actually a failure at that level. And you cannot include satellite as your recovery. People now started compromising the success of a film by putting in music. Eventually, your film should be known by the theatrical success. Right now, what happens is, हमारी पिक्चर ने gross worldwide 100 देते हैं, और फिर उसके बाद हम थोड़ा सा nobody realizes there's so much more than so everybody thinks the highest grossing film is the biggest hit. No, you have to also understand the money spent to make it, the recovery that you made. And the shares are very different. Every theatre actually has a different set of shares that you can do deals as distributors with each theatre. It's abroad. I think it's a bit more universal. In India, each distributor can come and discuss the share with you.
Yeah.
You need to have facts in front of you so the industry can be streamlined. Even as actors, we live in delusion sometimes. We think our film is doing so well here, so well there. I know if I reach bloody UP, Bihar, they won't even recognize me maybe right now. Yeah, I've not seeped into that market. I've not done those kind of films. You need to know your true worth. So when if I'm asking for a certain amount of money as an actor, I deserve it because I put in a lot of hard work. But you need to know, you cannot just open your mouth and ask for something. A producer might be desperate to make a film, they'll overpay you. You burden the film turns out to not do well by 7 crores, for example, if an actor is charged. That is exactly the amount extra that the actor is charged for no rhyme or reason. So today, if you know, you can say, okay, if my film does well to a certain degree, I'll then take a back end on it. Which is why Hollywood is a successful model in that sense. Actors are not above any film beyond a point. I mean, Matrix still happens, but then Keanu Reeves takes a back end if the film does well. So producers make money. Forrest Gump does well. Tom Hanks and the writers also get money for it. So we don't have those models here because we don't have the numbers to speak.
Exactly.
Which is very unfair, which I feel will put all of us on the same playing field when we set out to start a film and the numbers will be solidified.
All in all, it was an exhilarating movie week with great highs and lows. I can't wait to do it again next year. See you at MAMI 2015.
MAMI for me means Mumbai city, and it means films.
I'm getting an instinct that this is this is the beginning of a glorious future for MAMI Film Festival from this year onward. This is my instinct. After coming today and seeing the kind of enthusiasm and the kind of feedback I've got from everybody who has been on MAMI Festival, I think we see a great, I think this will continue.
I think every cinema lover, every passionate film watcher deserves to have a festival where they can come feel welcome.
It feels great. I'm a film student. I was at a film school. I've always loved films, and it feels just so exciting to be here at Cinemax and seeing all these thousands of people waiting in queue to watch films. It's very refreshing.
I'm glad that a lot of mainstream participation is there this time, and actors like Varun and all are interested in these movies.
So many budding filmmakers, screenplay writers, actors all across the country, all across the world come down to this city for films.
For any filmmaker, for film buffs, this is a great place and this should be supported and they should survive. And especially in a place like Bombay where which is the hub of Hindi film industry, you can't let a festival die here.
1, 2, 3. Subscribe to Film Companion to get your film fixed. Not film fix. Film fix. Film fix.
Yes.
अच्छा film का fix. Film fix. Okay. नहीं
हाँ बोलना तू हिंदी में बोलना.
नहीं this will be cut.
नहीं बोलना हिंदी में. तू बोलना.
नहीं यार चलना इंग्लिश में बोल नहीं.
भाई सब्सक्राइब हिंदी वर्ड है ना सब्सक्राइब बोल रहा है कि सब्सक्राइब करना किसको फिल्म कंपेनियन को सब्सक्राइब करो भिड़ो